Hi, Wei, and welcome to BitPinas. It's nice to meet you.
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me.
We have heard that many publications have noted that you actually bought Coins.ph.
So before I start, I kind of want to correct the reporting. So from Coins.ph perspective, and then from our existing investor perspective, and from my perspective, we actually haven't made any announcements. I think we are planning to, I think, make an announcement next week, so early around April 10th-ish, around then, 11th. We're actually going to do an official announcement. So the actual investor behind is not myself. I am part of the investor group. And then I myself will be officially or have been appointed officially the CEO of Coins, of not just Coins.ph, but I think of the entire holding company. Because I think under sort of the acquisition actually includes not just Coins.ph, but also Coins.th in Thailand as well. So two entities. And sort of the investor behind it is actually a technology buyout firm called Joffre Capital, Joffre Capital. I think we'll have more disclosure on that going forward. So I want to correct that error first, but irregardless, I think I will be sort of leading the management team, sort of in the new coins, as I like to call it.
Many people in the local community might not know of you. So if you can briefly share more about yourself first. I know you work in crypto and tech for quite some time, but for the local community, if you can share a brief introduction for everyone.
I'm a little bit older, I would say, Asian genes. So I think I look young, but I've basically been working in the, I would say, tech finance. I think at the crossroads of that for the last 20, almost for 20 plus years. I first entered the workforce in 2001. I started off my career as an investment banker in Hong Kong with Goldman Sachs, and then coincidentally, the very first deal that I closed in my professional career when I was like a 22-year-old just out of college was actually a deal in the Philippines. So it's very fortuitous. 20 years later, I'm coming back to the Philippines. Yeah. So that was my very first international business trip coming from Hong Kong, was actually going to Manila. So I went there quite a bit in the second half of 2001, if you can remember. And then the deal that I did was actually a Japanese beer company, Kering, taking an investment into San Miguel. And then I actually was at the board with all the people from San Miguel, and then helped them on everything. So very fond memories. And sort of from Goldman, I basically left and then moved into Beijing in 2005, and basically spent the last 15 years being kind of like a professional CFO for various startups. I've been CFO for about 5 companies, basically all in the technology space, in terms of job search, in terms of mobile gaming, in terms of online dating, in terms of internet media. And then the most current one where I was CFO of was actually Binance. So Binance is my very first dip into the crypto industry. I joined Binance in the summer of 2018. And then where I kind of moved back from the US, where I was actually running Grinder as part of a buyout there. And then I actually left sort of a management role from Grinder, and then actually officially joined Binance in the summer of 2018, and then basically took over a CFO. But my role within Binance is not and my role in general and CFO is not a sort of an accounting kind of type. I'm not I'm fully functional and probably quite good in terms of financial management, accounting, and compliance. But my role at Binance was primarily what I call like a growth CFO. My focus there were to expand Binance's global coverage in terms of fiat exchanges, as well as in terms of getting licensed in different jurisdictions. But more importantly, I basically ran the M&A and the subsequent investment team at Binance. So within Binance, I pretty much looked at or had my hands on pretty much all the major deals that was announced that Binance did from 2018 all the way until the summer of 2021, where I left. So obviously, I think there was some news about sort of my departure from Binance in the summer of 2021, which is last year. And people were asking me, what's he gonna do? And this is one of those stealth projects that I was working on, sort of during that time, I guess. So yeah, so like my first sort of like memory of Coins.ph was like in late to 2018. We're looking at sort of like global crypto businesses at Binance, right? Looking at global market share, looking at just sort of what we call like traffic analysis, right? In terms of all the different properties, right? In terms of, what percentage of the global traffic in crypto goes to Binance, what percentage of traffic goes to Coinbase, what percent of traffic at that point then it was like BitPinas, Kraken, Huobi, OKCoin, right? These sort of international exchanges. And then we also added sort of, key regional exchanges on that as well. And then always on these weekly data, Coins.ph came up. and I was like, huh, that's interesting. There's this Filipino app that's kind of like has like a couple of million users. Like that's massive, right? At that point, right? It's pretty massive then, right? Or back then maybe it was not a million, but still a couple hundred. But like for like a crypto business to have a couple of 100,000 sort of active users on a weekly or monthly basis, that's pretty significant. Right? Even today, I think it's significant. So they kind of had like a mental memory of it, and then I actually like through a contact, because I was coming in and out of Singapore at that point, actually reached out to Ron. So I actually had a conversation with Ron. I remember this very vividly while I was like driving, because I was physically living in Beijing. I was like driving, and I had a conference call with Ron like early 2019. But at that point, there wasn't a deal for Binance, where because I think Coins.ph had just been sold to GoJek at that point. So around early 2019. So sort of it kind of was paused, right? And then I came up on sort of Coins.ph again, sort of after I left Binance, that there was a like basically I found out that it was GoJek was looking to divest it, right? As it was looking to basically divest its sort of I would say holdings outside of its core regions, right? GoJek wanted to focus on Indonesia, right? Post their merger with Tokopedia to form GoTo, right? And also the focus on Singapore. So they basically were divesting their assets and holdings in the Philippines and in Thailand, right? And then this was one of their sort of legacy things that they did not want to invest additional resources in, right? So one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? I wouldn't call it trash, but one man, and in my mind, sort of all these sort of like memories kind of triggered it, and I looked into it. And I called up some of my friends sort of in the private equity industry, in the buyout industry. And then we basically, started working on the deal together, like me in my individual capacity, and then the Joffre in their professional capacity, as a technology buyout fund. So yeah, I mean, so it, these deals take a lot of time to negotiate, to sign, and then finally, I think the last hurdle that we cleared, recently, is actually regulatory approval. So we actually received regulatory approval from the BSP, the Central Bank of the Philippines. As you know, Coins is a fully regulated entity, right? As a financial service provider in the Philippines, as a EMI, as a remittance company, as a virtual asset service provider. So we need to basically get, the deal needs to get vetted, right? Who's the previous, controlling shareholder, who are the new controlling shareholder, maybe we need to get them vetted on the management team as well. So basically, here I am. Yeah, so that's sort of the backstory of, who sort of my personal background. You can probably find me on LinkedIn. I've sort of even at Binance, like I actually ran the Binance like podcast. I did like about 30, 40 episodes. So and then did quite a lot of interviews, right? So I'm not a private personality, I would say. It's like, there's enough stuff of me on the internet that I think people can find it. So you can find that I'm generally have a very open sort of attitude. And then but I'm also very very, 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 I would say like, like deep love crypto. And I think that's sort of like and I felt like my experience at Binance, where I was like feel like I was at basically the center of the universe, right, in terms of like the crypto world, where I joined when it was just a couple of hundred people, and by the time I left, there were like 4,000 5,000 people, right, with locations all around the world, right. I think I had a lot of, but so for me, I hope to basically take a lot of things that I have learned a lot of sort of what I call sort of like a crypto native mindset, right? Not just in terms of, trading, right, which I think is one of the products and services that coins currently provide, but actually sort of like, I would say what I call like, you know, like one of the core things is that basically continuing to build products that people use, right? But then when building it, approach it with a crypto native mentality. I mean, that like there's not that many people in the world that kind of think that way, right? Like especially I think in the regulated space. But I do think that, one of the best good things, like one of the really cool things about coins is that we actually have all the necessary licenses, I think, to carry on our current business. And then we also have I think a very, I would say, hungry user base in the Philippines who want to be engaged, right? Who want to use things, you know, in their native language, in the native culture, in their sort of their native environment. That's also crypto native at the same time, right? It doesn't, and it has, and I think there's something to be said about that. So that's what I hope to bring and to build.
It is very interesting that you mentioned that when you were that you actually led the Binance expansion, and we certainly have felt that here in the Philippines, wherein there's a lot of not just marketing but all the products that seemingly tailored to the Philippine market like P2P. So but especially this year we have a lot of players that are coming into the Philippines. PayMaya, for example, recently activated their crypto app within their app, so people can now buy directly there. And then GCash, also these are the two e-wallets here, are also going to go crypto. That's what they mentioned before. And then Coinbase is hiring a director here, and even Binance also, like
Mhm.
a specific Philippine director. So are you is Coins.ph, or are you worried about this? It seems to me that even we have this particular BCE licenses, like the community still go to, for example, to P2Ps. What could be the key differentiator, shall I say, of Coins.ph versus these other competitors at this point?
I'll backtrack a little bit about just sort of like, the previous sort of management. I think, anytime a company gets sold, right, and then the management team sort of transitions from a sort of a founder mentality. I've gone through that like multiple times in my previous iteration, where the founders sort of switch out to a sort of a corporate management. I think there are going to be differences, right, and there are going to be sort of different motivations. There's going to be different drives, and there's just a lot of factors that played into sort of like what has transpired sort of at Coins over the last 3+ years. But I do have to say, sort of like, kudos, like that kind of stuff happening with the onset of COVID, with all the uncertainties in the world, right, with an inability to sort of meet, right, like these deals are done and then people just sort of have never met, right. And I think that, like, with that, and especially it's sort of like strange people meeting for the first time, and the different organizations sort of cross, and you can't meet and talk about and do things. I think that makes sort of the management of the company sort of was really challenging, right. And it takes a long time, and also Gojek itself is a fast growing business, right, with its primary focus on ride hailing and payments, right. So I think like I kind of like give credit to sort of the previous management team, sort of what I say to sort of, keep the train running, right? I think like it may not have, added new things until last year and recently, right? But at least the train ran on time, and I think that there's a lot. I've seen a lot of scenarios of like with these kind of acquisitions where the train stopped running, when the founders leave, right? So I think the credit to sort of like the previous, Coins, not just sort of the owners, but also I think credit to the management team at Coins, which was led by Naman and everyone there, to basically kept the train running, right? Like, because I think like I think once sort of like the soul of the business, the founder kind of leaves, it needs a refresher, right? And I hope that sort of our current management regime is that sort of like refresher, at least to sort of reactivate this train, right? And we can make it into like a bullet train. To answer the second part of your question is sort of like, how am I going to differentiate Coins from sort of all the existing competition and sort of incoming competition? It comes down to building a better product, and then having like, and I think, and then also sort of providing access. And thirdly, I think, is like I said before, is basically being more native to crypto, And I think all of those things, I think that's where sort of like, if you look at sort of Binance's success in the Philippines over the last 12, from saying from like 2021 to today, it's been the most crypto native. It has the most crypto native product, right? If you are a crypto user, you want to go to Binance because they have everything. Like you can trade all the coins you want. You can earn on your with your money, and then you can even sort of like join their launch pad and then maybe get lucky and make some extra money, right? Like these are the things that sort of the users want, right? But one of the challenges that I saw at Binance is that like the world is changing, right? The world is changing in such that regulators, and especially I think tax, not just sort of, I would say, licensing regulators like the central banks, the SECs, but also sort of like the tax regulators, right? They're all smartening up. I think you're seeing that across not the region, not just in the Philippines and Southeast Asia, right? You're seeing in the United States, in Europe, and obviously in North Asia, you have different type of regimes coming around, like in India and Latin America. Like I think regulators as across the board are smartening up or are figuring out, hey, this industry, we can't just sort of let it run wild anymore. We need to have some kind of recourse to protect users. I think that's sort of the most important thing, and to collect our tax revenue, right? Because I think these things are important. Why? Because money made locally and taxed locally will support the businesses locally and support the people locally, right? Like it makes sense, right? It's not, I kind of want to sort of like, I'm not advocating for all of that, but I'm just saying that it's one of these things that, that I think is actually very, very important for the next growth of our industry, right? Because at the end of the day, users want protection, right? As a platform, I know that I have an obligation to my regulators to provide that protection, right? And if I screw up, the regulator is going to come down on me and then basically, put me a fine, or like there's ramifications, right? If we don't protect our users, and I think that kind of recourse is going to take place, like, and I think because there are instances of things that are happening on unregulated businesses that that may not be the best for the users involved, right? And I think from that perspective, I think that's sort of one of the major sort of like investment thesis sort of behind sort of my deploying capital and then sort of bringing investors into sort of building coins, right? And to building, I think, hopefully building coins in Thailand as well. I think these things all exist. And in terms of sort of like, vis-a-vis, I would say like the local incumbents, um, I, I go back to sort of like, like the DNA of the company. I think Coins, the original DNA is crypto first. And I think they've sort of put that on pause. And I want to shift, and I want to go back to that DNA. I want to go back to be sort of like the most crypto native, platform, right? Serving the largest number of users, onboarding the largest number of users, giving them sort of the best, crypto native products, and on an easy to use platform. And I think all of these things matter, right? So and obviously for Coins we have a much bigger head start, right? And I think we're not just a, what I call an API. What does that mean? Like I'm just not, I'm not like API like my services out to a third party, right? I'm just sitting here like, here's my user, put your money in, and then I don't actually build the back end. I don't build the services. I don't build the products. I'm just API to a third service party provider who basically, chuck it back to you, the user. Like I want to build that product. I want to hire product people in the Philippines. I want to hire tech people in the Philippines. I want to hire operational people who are actually sitting there and then actually figuring out, hey, what's this product going to look like? How are we going to apply it sort of with our users? Like I think on the ground here, right, in this province or in that city, right? And then also, right, because one of the neat things about Philippines and about Coins is we also have a remittance license. I think crypto rails compared to traditional financial rails is going to provide a much cheaper, safer, and faster, remittance opportunity, right? Like there's a lot of incumbents in this industry, and then like you touch a little thing and it might sort of like make a lot of people angry. But I do think that given our license is there, I think there is something we can build there, right? And I have sort of seen that being used, but just not in a sort of, I would say, official capacity, right? I think right now, one of Coins' biggest partner is actually Ripple, right? Like XRP is actually, actively out there sort of like, building up their remittance rails, right? And that's a very good business partner that Coins have had over the years in terms of sort of, tapping into XRP as a source of, as a way to sort of help people remit money in and out, right? In a like I mentioned, fast, cheap, and efficient, and most importantly, safe, right? I think these are the things. These things are sort of like the ethos of crypto, right? It's sort of like it kind of matches. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up, especially on the remittance side and all the products and features that you intend to build. So I guess my follow-up question here is that which group or segment of the Filipino people, of the Filipino users, do you see driving the next wave of growth for Coins.ph? So right now your publicly available user number is 16 million. So in what segment of the Filipino users will be the next 10 million or the next 20 million users of Coins.ph?
Young people, young people, young
Young
people.
people.
I mean, look, man, I think I looked at, like, if you look at the demographics of the Philippines, right, 100 plus million people, like 11th or 12th, like most populous country in the world, right? One of the only, I would say, 3 countries in Southeast Asia that has over 100 million people. And then the demographics wise, over half of the people are under age of 30, right? But then sort of like, banking, like access in terms of like, only about 30 to 40% of the people, like, population kind of have like access to sort of like traditional banking rails, right? And I think we can change that, right? Like more people probably have cell phones in their hands than they do with an actual bank account, right? Like one of the original logos or one of the original slogans that Coins had is like, banking in your wallet, right? Like, or banking on your phone or something like that, right? I think something so it goes back to before. I think, if we can deliver sort of like, safe, fast, efficient products, it could be really, really cool to get young people in. And I think you're already seeing that. I think with a lot of sort of the gamers in the Philippines, right? And then they're basically just young people, right? And then I think, and I don't think, you can make a career out of that, but you can actually make, I would say, extra money, right, by doing some of these play to earn or play and earn type of activities, right? To basically and I think that's sort of the group that we're looking at.
So it's a good thing that you mentioned the things about the play to earn players, and I wanted to know how Coins.ph intend to support them, especially now that many of the play to earn games, for example, are in Ethereum, so naturally going to MetaMask or
Mhm,
going to crypto international crypto exchanges.
mhm.
How does Coins.ph fit in that particular segment?
Yeah, I think we have to redevelop. I think we basically have to put a whole new product on the face of Coins for this audience, because I think right now there's sort of like 2 buckets of people sort of within the play and earn space, right? One are what I call sort of like the investors, right? And these would include the guilds. They're the one that basically buy up these NFT assets, right? And then the other one is basically what I call sort of like the players or the borrowers, right? That basically that take these assets that these investors have bought, right? And then basically, and use them to basically drive income, right? And then they basically have a pre agreed upon sort of like revenue split between the asset owner and sort of the player, right? And that's the case where, where the individual players don't have enough, capital to basically, to buy NFTs. What I think, down the road, right, as these players starting to generate real income from these games, they can actually become, what I call capitalists themselves, right? They can become NFT capitalists because they can make enough money such that they can earn their shelf. Like in the old days, like you make enough money on a farm to own a cow, to own a cart, so that you can basically go and farm and make money for yourself, right? Like I think these are sort of like the same dynamics that's kind of taking place, except all of this is taking place in a digital format rather than sort of like in a real world format. And I think this, for a lot of people in the Philippines over the last 2 years, this has been sort of transformational in that they basically have a new way to basically make money that they did not really have before, right? Just basically by spending time. But I do think that sort of all of that obviously have been predicated on the success of Axie Infinity. But I do think that over the next, not even the far future, I think over the near future, we're going to see a wave of games coming out uh, with all kinds of blank and earn. It could be play, it could be sleep, it could be run, it could be talk. I mean, I just think like because like the gamification of this, and then the token incentive of this, and the way for NFTs to activate all of this, I think we're just getting started. And I do think that I think right now a lot of the businesses that sort of like within the play and earn industry sort of are catered specifically around Axie, right? Given sort of the dynamic that Axie kind of has that allows for guild management, allows for the use of, NFTs. That's, you don't have to own NFT to sort of to work it. And I think, that may change, right? Different games and different sort of token projects have different reward mechanisms and have different NFT ownership schedules. I think all of these things are coming, right? And I think from our perspective, right, like we're not in the game making industry, like we're not in the guild industry, we're a platform, right? So from our perspective, how do we, make this process, right, that I mentioned before, that I can see coming, how I can make that process easy and safe and efficient and cheap for my users, right? I mean, credit to sort of I don't want to toot their horn, credit to Binance in terms of, they're one of the first exchanges, I think, to support the Ronin sidechain, right? And then what is Ronin? Like the safe part is a question mark, given what happened the last 2 weeks, but at least it was fast and it was cheap, right? And with fast and cheap, we're basically, we saw Axie sort of been able to ramp up, their user base in the Philippines, right? And then coincide with Binance being able to offer that service, they basically saw their user base in Philippines sort of ramp up as well, right? And I think it's no wonder that, like if you can provide these services, right? Whether sort of the local players and competitors kind of like can provide that, or like for even for coins, like, we started offering Ronin chain support for AXS and SLP last month around mid-March. So that was one of the first sort of major initiatives that we were pushing for. Once we launched that, we basically see, trading volume of SLP on Coins.ph sort of going from nothing to like doing, a couple of $1 million a day, right? Like, why? Because we're providing a easy and fast way of doing it, right? Because you can basically, within your coins wallet where you can spend, right, your fiat, and on this other side, you basically have a, a very easy way for you to send in your SLP via Ronin chain and then swap it out into PHP directly, all in the same wallet. You don't have to take it in. You don't have to move it like 5 times before you can spend it, right? Once you convert your SLP into fiat, right, you can spend it right away, right? And I think that's one of the unique value propositions that coins have that maybe banking apps or maybe, international exchanges do not have, right? Because we have that, what I call sort of like the local last mile. I think our competitors like PayMaya and GCash, they probably have the same capability, right? But where I'm going to really differentiate myself is that by being more crypto native than they are, right? I think there's going to be 20 different, and there's going to be like 20 Axie games in maybe in a year, right? Maybe there's going to be like 10 like SLP type of tokens, right? That people can earn and move back into fiat and spend, right? But one of the big caveats that I kind of want to throw out there is one of these real issues that we are working out with, I think, and then we have to sort of figure out and solve for, which is basically if you are a play to earn player or a play to earn manager, right? How do you verify your source of income to pass KYC? Right? Like,
That's
does
the
your
question. Yeah.
does your crypto revenue, if it's verified that you do this, right? Does that count? Right? I think that's something that one of these challenges that we have to work through, right? Because in the traditional financial, world, right, when you to use these services, you obviously have to pass KYC. You have to pass this what I call know your customer part, right? You have to verify your identity. You are who you say you are, and then if you put a lot of money into the account, any bank, any financial service provider would ask you where did that money come from, right? That's like from a user perspective, I hate it, right? It's onerous as it's terrible, right? It's very onerous, very annoying, but that's sort of like the requirements, right, of being a sort of a regulated to basically, to make sure that the pot is clean, right? We don't want sort of like, quote unquote dirty money coming in and tank the pot, right? Because that would kind of maybe ruin the experience, and then maybe sort of, dirty the water for everybody, right? And I think that's part of like, and that's the part I think historically had given sort of crypto a bad reputation from day one, right? It's like, but the thing is as we've seen over the years, the percentage of people doing it is very small, right? But that doesn't mean we still have to take precaution to make sure that, because I think only when we can tell the rest of the world, right, the financial world, the normal world, right, the normies, that, hey, this is not bad. This is good. It's clean. It's nice. Everybody, this swimming pool is nice. Jump in, swim with us, right? Like, but we have to keep the swimming pool clean, So, right. So I think that's sort of the analogy that I like to make. But I do think that sort of there's a lot of things I think coming down, right? Because given my background in terms of investing, right, I've invested in like hundreds of projects, within Binance, and then after I left Binance as well. I kind of see the coming, right, in terms of there's all kinds of stuff that I think people can do within sort of the virtual world now, right? That's what I like to call it, or the meta world or the metaverse. Or I think there's different terms for it, to basically to earn, right? To earn crypto tokens. And at Coins, we hope we're the one of, right? You're going to have a lot of options. We hope that we're one of the platforms that you can use to basically, move your earnings from the digital world back into the real world in a fast, cheap, and safe way. And hopefully, we're going to give you a lot of options. Because one of the things that I kind of want to add down the road, I'm going to preview it here, is I want to make it rewarding as well. What do I mean by that? We're in the process, like I think right now we're in the process of launching our Coins Pro, which is our order book trading. I think that's been in development for quite a bit, but we're working with the regulators to basically sign off on launching that. And then in conjunction of that, we're basically in the early stages of developing a Coins token. So that we would like to reward, we would like to use to reward our users, right? So yeah.
Wow.
Dropping a lot of alpha here.
Yeah, this has actually been a very eye-opening conversation with someone from Coins.ph. I guess one of my comments is that not a lot of people knows about this. Like the general observation from the people on Facebook and in communities is that Coins is, yeah, shall I say so, Coins.ph is slow, it doesn't understand this,
Yep.
those things. And I think all those things.
Buy
So
them out. Yeah.
so these are perceptions, and I guess you will do the products and do the promotions, but how are you going to change this particular perception of Coins.ph that has been here for quite a while?
Yeah. So we have a bunch of stuff sort of in the pipeline. I think a lot of these things just take time to come out, right? I think in terms of prices, in terms of free Ethereum, in terms of free Ethereum wallets, in terms of sort of like the cost, like the spread, in terms of the timing, in terms of like the KYC backlog, in terms of like random freezing of account. I think we're actively working all of that, and I think within the next couple of months, we're going to release a sort of like, I would say, a rebrand of Coins, right? Because even our logo is kind of old, right? Like it's a good logo, but it just looks kind of old, right? The app looks old, right? It looks like it came out of like the like last century, right?
Web 2.0, yeah.
Yeah. There's just a lot of things that like that's sort of like, I would say, they're pretty obvious for any anybody with their eyes open, that this thing just looks old, feels old, and kind of slow, right? I think all of these things, we will be investing in terms of people and in terms of time and in terms of resources to fix, right? And I look forward to release these changes. It's not going to all come at once. I think right now we're gonna by adding more product, we're gonna add more tokens. I think that's pretty, like, I wouldn't say low hanging fruit, because there's technical challenges in terms of managing that. Like we have to add additional blockchain support, right? We're looking to add, Solana support, Avalanche support, Polygon support, BSC support. Like we're looking to add additional token support. We're looking to add, all of these things are coming, right? We're looking to do a new app release sort of soon as well. But I do think that from a quote unquote perception perspective, right? like I want to make Coins.ph a national brand, right? Like these sort of like, because like I think within different countries now, each country kind of has like their own sort of like national crypto brand, right? Like you have Coinbase in the United States. You have sort of like, you know, in India, you have WazirX. I think in Thailand, you have like Bitcup, you know, and then you have like in Brazil, you have Mercado. In Europe, you have a couple of smaller local brands. But I think in each region, you kind of have like a national champion. And I kind of want to build Coins to be sort of like the national champion of the Philippines, in terms of, you know, bring the industry with us, right? And then also bring users into us, and then sort of working with the regulators to basically to educate them, and then to sort of, you know, to grow sort of like, you know, grow their you know, knowledge, as well as sort of, you know, like to support, I think, the growth of the industry. Because I think it's really, really vital that I think the industry stays sort of, you know, locally. I think that's really, really important. And you know, like another thing that I'm going to announce is, I'll tell you here, I'm going to get yelled at by my marketing department probably for sort of like jumping the gun on this one, is that Coins.ph will be the official sort of one of the official sponsors for the upcoming Miss Universe Philippines pageant in the end of the month. And then we will be, you know, because I think that's a very powerful platform to deliver sort of what I call sort of like, you know, financial awareness, you know, financial education. I think that's going to be a very platform, very, very good platform, right? Because I think there's traditional education, but there's also financial education, right? And then like sort of understand the risks, right? Because and I think that these are the things like I would like to work with them long term to deliver sort of like financial education seminars, teach-ins, and maybe even just sort of like quick, you know, TikTok videos in terms of talking about sort of like, you know, things to look out for, things to, I think that's a very powerful platform. And then, you know, Miss Philippines historically have been very successful in the Miss Universe. And we look to sort of, you know, support the winner to go global.
I think I will be busy after this interview.
Sure.
um, we have come to the point where these are the questions that BitPinas has received through the years
Mhm.
for Coins.ph. So I would like to have if you can answer them one by one. Um, so yeah, first question is one of the key questions that people are saying is that the fees are very high
Mhm.
in Coins.ph. But what are you doing to make sure that this gets mitigated or be lessened in the future?
Yeah, so the fees come across two things. One is sort of like how much it costs for you to buy, and how much it do you get back returning you sell, right? We would like to tighten the spread. I mean, that's sort of like the industry term. We would like to tighten the spread such that you can get the cheapest prices in PHP, and then you can sell for the highest prices in PHP. I think like we will be monitoring sort of what our competitors' rates are, and we would like for our spread to be the tightest. That's our goal.
Also mentioned earlier about the creation of the pre-Ethereum wallets. So why does it have a fee also?
uh Technology. I just think that like I said before, sort of like, you know, from the early days of crypto to today, you know, like I like it just there hasn't been any sort of like real changes in the technology platform for the last couple of years. So this is one of the major upgrades that we will be doing in terms of wallet from our wallet team, right? Which is like, let's not only are we going to give people sort of, you know, obviously mentioned like free Ethereum wallet. We want to open up support for we want to open up wallet support. So in your Coins wallet, you can basically get support for the other blockchains as well.
Why do we need to state the name of the recipient of our transfer? So like why do we need to say the fund is going to MetaMask and other exchanges? So that's also
Yeah, so there's this in the convoluted world of global finance, there's an organization called the Financial Action Task Force, FATF. It's basically one of the de facto sort of like oversights that looks at all the different central banks, that looks at all the different banks that operates in all of the world. And one of the rules that it sort of pushed out was this thing called travel rule, right? Which basically says that as a virtual asset service provider, depending on what, like, doesn't matter what country you are, right? You know, and I think this is going to be one of these sort of like major regulations that's going to be impacting, I think, our industry. and we are basically collectively looking for a solution around this, which basically said you need to identify who you're sending crypto to and who you're receiving crypto from. And I think, for us, we've been very cautious in sort of, following the T's of the law there. And I think, we want to make this as painless and effortless for our users as possible. Like one of the ideas, basically, you can basically whitelist down the road. I think from a product perspective, basically you can whitelist, all of your quote unquote safe addresses, such that not only is it convenient for you to use, but you can also sort of avoid sort of this extra burdensome step. So I think sort of once we understand sort of the how the law is going to be implemented, or not, it's not a law, it's a regulation or even advice. And I think different countries do it a different way. I think once we understand, like, how we can continue to run our services under these rules, we would like to sort of add that into our product, such that to make it both, I think maybe it's a one-time pay, but then once you get through that, then the product is actually, because the way you want to build product is you want to have as little barrier as possible, right? If I want to do something, once I hit confirm, I want it to be confirmed, right? Like I don't want it to be like, oh, poop, there's another pop-up box, you have to type in some details, right? I think a lot of it comes back to just sort of general user experience that we can fix.
I guess my last question is the last segment that we have not yet discussed are the NFT artists. And what is Coins.ph doing to support NFT art and NFT artists and crypto artists here in the Philippines? So are you going to target that segment as well?
I like, to be honest, I don't know that much about it. I would like to go and take a look and explore it, and I'd like to get feedback from my team on this one. I think NFT as a whole is a massive opportunity, and I think because it comes down to building up sort of, because NFT is just like it's a cultural piece, right? Like whether they're real sort of like single item arts, or they're sort of like 5,000, 9,999, whatever, 777, sort of like these PFP kind of like collectibles, which are more like social flexes, right? All of it sort of like like your collection maybe down the road speaks about who you are, right? And then you also have gaming assets that are showing up as NFTs, and then down the road we're going to see metaverse assets showing up as NFTs. I just think like NFT as a whole is a massive opportunity, right? Because at the end of the day, it basically creates what I call like the ownership, like the digital ownership economy, right? It, like what we like to do at Coins, I think, and one of the things that we're looking to do sort of with the Miss Universe Philippines program is basically, deliver, I would say, education initiatives, right? For crypto education, financial education, and maybe one of the things we can work on with them is basically sort of on NFT initiatives, right? Maybe not necessarily about the pageants for contestants, but actually sort of like, hey, let's bring the artists together and see if there's an opportunity sort of to take what they create and then bring that to our users, right? And I think that's something really, really important to help, I think, the industry to grow, through our platform, right? And like, if you remember, like one of the things that I talked about is that we currently have, I think right now, as we want to take Miss Philippines global, right? We want to take some of these artists global as well, right? Because because one of the things that I want to bring back to is just sort of like my team, myself, and then some of the new members that are joining. We're very crypto native. Like we are NFT. Like I'm an NFT collector myself, right? Like one of the things is maybe the addressable market for this and for these NFTs is not in the Philippines. Maybe it's a global audience that like what we create, right? And maybe Philippine artist NFT could be a global phenomenon. I think that would be much more impactful than just sort of like than just sort of being trapped sort of in the Philippines per se, right? Because there are international NFT platforms, right, that we can introduce them to. We can collaborate through Coins.ph on to do showcase the displays, and then maybe even put them up for auction at Sotheby's or something, right? So
This has been a very eye-opening conversation with you and the Coins.ph team. If you have any final words to say to our audience, to the Filipino crypto community, what would you say?
yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for your support of Coins through the years, and thank you for using our services. I think there's a lot of things that we have to fix, but I just want to say, you know, the best is yet to come for what we want to offer, and for what we will offer.
Okay, thank you so much, and yeah, see you around.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michael.